There are 200,000 farmers in Canada. Let's dig into their problems. Welcome to the Hands That Feed Us on tour. I'm Devin Cook, and I'm driving across Canada to find romance. But not the kind you think. I'm looking for the romance, the big ideas, the ambition, and the sheer bloody-mindedness that can rebuild Canada's economy. Welcome to Gull Lake, Alberta. The group here is mostly retirees and a young man who works in agriculture and can't imagine dealing with the stress of being a big farmer. We're talking about how sometimes smaller farms can do better than big ones because they keep us closer to our food.
You know, what was it that really stood out that you feel like is true in this community in particular?
Well, in this community, just like the local area, unfortunately the family farm is dying. And it's because of commercial farming. But what I've been seeing is none of the upcoming generation wants to take over the family farm. And like even my buddy just down the road here, right? We're saying like he's hoping the girls take over the farm when they get older. And there's been so many guys getting out of it, older generation, and the younger isn't taking over the farm, and then the farm is sold to someone else, or the neighbor buys up the land. I don't know if it's a problem that can be fixed.
I deliberately tried to show a wide variety of farms, and I mean I guess I don't know who the up-and-comers are in this area. What I know was a conversation that we had, I've done a little bit of work with the National Farmers Union, is that there's plenty of young farmers in and around the National Farmers Union that want to farm. The barrier is how do you even get into it?
And that, like you said too, right, land prices. We subdivide all this land, so now we're subdividing, we're taking away agricultural land, but then because we're subdividing it, we're actually increasing and spiking that value of land. And then when a farmer goes to go, oh, I need another quarter, well, that quarter goes from that $8,000 to $6,000 an acre now to like $40,000 to $80,000 an acre. A quarter just went for 1.8 million.
Oh my God.
A quarter just down the road here went for 1.3 this spring. Quarter down the road over here literally went for 1.5. So when you say like you buy that quarter, you don't buy that quarter. You rent that quarter from the bank. You never own it, and you will never pay it off.
So one of the things that stuck out to me is every succession that I saw there, some of them were passing on to their kids an inheritance, but none of them got their land at market value. So to me it throws in the question, well, why are people paying that much? You can rage at the government and think, oh, well, government can step in. It's like, okay, well, that's a battle that can be fought. But I guess my attitude, again, is what can we do here in this place, as individuals? I guess I look at it as, okay, well, that's all too big. Big corporate farms can do it. But if I want to start out, no way I want to start. I mean, a quarter for $1 million? I don't have $1 million.
What I see in the big picture is life was quite simple in my childhood. When I grew up, it was quite simple at a community level. It was quite simple as how people were satisfied with their existence. You were 8 or 10 kids growing up on a farm, and you didn't have 8 pairs of shoes, and so life was a lot simpler. So I suggest that I think, for me, what I see is the complexity of the systems that we have created. And you do a good job of pointing out the complexity of the economic financial system, the complexity of the oligarchs who control so much of the power behind the money. And is money evil? Maybe not. But has it gotten us to a point where we've gone away to not really realizing exactly where our food is coming from? And I'm going to say that as time goes along and you start recognizing how precious water is and how precious something to eat is, people are going to have to shift their focus. Now, are they going to do it soon enough to really appreciate that farmer? I don't know. I know that every household in my village had a garden, and it was a big garden. And pretty well, you didn't have to be a farmer to be growing 70% of your food, okay? You grew the wide majority of the food. And I suspect that maybe if we really talk about the problem of farming, we're going to recognize that it's the problem of not only farming, but it's the problem of people being so disconnected from the source of food. You know, what happens when the day comes when the grocery shelves are all empty?
I mean, what I see, I feel like the large scale commodity farms feel like they're the most screwed with any of them. I don't see a solution for that. But I see all of these direct to market farmers, and I mean, I was up in Sexsmith in the piece. Yeah, there was a few farming families around. It turned out that the farmer that was hosting me was the only farmer in the room that didn't have off-farm income. And he was selling meat products direct to consumer. You know, it was still a tough life, but they had been doing it long enough that they'd gotten over the hump. They didn't have to work off-farm. It was like you said, they were growing most of their food on the farm.
Well, I suspect as individuals, what we've got to start doing is fighting back against governmental policies that don't allow people to sell that sausage that they made in the backyard, or the licensing to sell strawberries or whatever fruits and vegetables. I think it's just gotten out of hand, and I know it's been a safety food issue.
A lot of farmers around here now, because of the whole, market and being controlled by the market, everyone, and this happened actually since the pandemic. I've seen it just explode. But every farm now, you see like a sign in front of their driveway, right? Farm fresh beef or farm fresh eggs, and everyone has that little like storefront shop at the front of their driveway type thing, right? And I've been seeing that so much around here. So we had one actually up here in Pigeon Lake, and it was good. But again, they couldn't find the help. They couldn't keep that shop running and blah, blah, blah. And again, like they could process about like, I think it was 1,000 animal an hour. Like it was unreal. But if you didn't have that like 400 or 500 chicken to do, they wouldn't take you anymore, right? Because like you said, right? Like to be profitable, even in that business, they needed to do volume, not just that custom niche. I got 2 chickens. Can you butcher them for me? No.
Yeah.
That becomes a good question. That at least I know that I could still fix a fish, fix
Yes.
a chicken, I could still skin a rabbit
Yes.
and eat it. But I wonder how many individuals that are 30, 40 years younger than us actually would have the skill to be able to do that.
To take a chicken and put it on their plate.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
Cooked.
Chicken on plate. But that's the thing too, right? And then, but the education system too, right, isn't focused on that, because now it's more technological orientated, and you really have to grow up on the farm to want to be a farmer, and because you might be the exception, but there's not city people just going out and going. You might be the exception, but there's not city people just going out and going, I want to drown myself in debt, and like you said about going and working on a farm. But there's one thing about managing that farm and like actually running that farm.
I mean,
It's the greatest question ever. Like, what do you do?
So I want to ask what you all thought of this idea of romance. This is kind of the closest thing to I have to a solution, but it's, it is a very open-ended solution. And I would love to sort of know, did that phrasing of things as this is how you cope with this? Is romance how you cope with this? Does that resonate? Am I crazy? Am I incredibly naive? How did that come across?
Well, I think that's a difficult question
Yeah.
for any of us here that are retired, which we all are, except probably for you, because
This loser.
It's a good way to present.
Still working for a living.
Documentary. It's a good way to present the whole documentary.
No, yeah,
I did a good job of that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that fact.
Yeah.
But then, and again, I'm not a. Everyone says, "Oh, you're so negative, Steve." I try to be an optimist, right? Because if you look at things realistically, and if you have that realistic outlook, then you're not crushed when shit like, I guess, not fails,
Failure.
but like you know what to expect. But if you're like always so bubbly and like, you have to have the attitude so you don't, do something stupid. But again, back to my buddy, the romance is there because he loves what he does. Like, he was born and raised, hasn't left the farm. And yeah, like how else do you keep going other than you just love what you're doing? But at the end of the day, is romance the thing keeping them alive? In my personal experience, no, it's the alcohol. Right?
It's keeping them alive. Well, maybe not for long.
Not keeping them alive, but keeping them going.
Yeah.
Keeping them numb.
Yeah.
Keeping them numb. Because you love what you do, but at the end of the day too, the bills come in. And then it's either, Kate, take your calves this year, sell them right now, or wait, and then hopefully the market goes up. Because again, right, every day though, right, you're still feeding the animals, so then that romance still comes back in the picture because you're still waking up. Because you love the animals, you love your kids, and you're still working towards something. That something's unknown because you don't know what that dollar amount is when you go to sell those animals, right? And again, like that, I forget her name, Susan?
Susan.
In Red Deer. I kind of took away that a little bit personal experience too, right? Because she's like, I built this herd and this and that, right? And then she's like, I've been so fortunate to do so because my partner worked off farm. I'm like, there it is.
I saw her last week, and she really reiterated that you cannot do it without support from your family, your spouse, your kids, your uncles.
Like,
Yeah. Strawberry place.
So I work at a strawberry
Yeah.
farm, and my has to work full time, and she runs the strawberry farm. But everything that you showed there, I could totally relate because I've worked there for a few years, but they're running. They get up at 6. They're out there organizing. They're organizing their crews. Around here, it is hard to get people to work. I already had that conversation with you. So they bring in Jamaican crews now, and then also hire students. And there's a few of us who've just kind of been there. But it is a struggle. They have to go do all the farmers markets. They have 4 children, and he's doing this one and she's doing that one, and they need a sitter for a couple hours because they're going to cross over. But it's their love, right? They have the romance of making this business successful. But, I've been there when adjusters have been there because the weather has hit the crops. And it is a hard life. It's not an easy, here I am as a farmer, just isn't easy every day. But they have that passion to keep them going.
But I think it's somehow, as a society, we have to realize that we've got complexity of systems, but we also have to remember that it's an educational process. When you've been that disconnected from food, and when kids don't know that brown milk does not come from a brown cow, and have no clue what and how to grow a carrot or a potato, that's the basis of where we've got to start. To me, it's the disconnection from food. How can you appreciate a farmer when you have no idea
how to grow your plants, how to
or
raise
the
an
fact that
animal.
he needs wheat, or somebody needs wheat to make that bread that you're eating today? It's the disconnect. I think we've become so disconnected with the reality of how we survive.
Thanks for listening to the Hands That Feed Us on tour. My goal for the tour is to host 250 discussions in rural agricultural communities across Canada. That's one every weekday. The tour is possible because of word of mouth. My offer is this: if you have a barn or a basement anywhere in Canada, I will personally come to your community, host a screening of my documentary, The Hands That Feed Us, and facilitate a discussion. All you have to do is invite your friends and neighbors. If you know someone who might want to bring my tour to town, send them a link to this episode, or get them to sign up at thehandsthatfeedus.ca/host. There's a link in the episode description. Next week, I'll be in Penticton, talking to a community foundation about why they decided to buy farmland on behalf of a new farmer, and how they hope that model could expand in the future. See you then, and thanks for listening.